The following podcast is a presentation of Project Entertainment Network.
Hello, welcome to Staring Into the Abyss. I'm your host, Richard Gerlach, recording live from this hell world we live in right now. With me, as always, is Michael Patrick Hicks.
Hey, Rich.
And Matt Brandenburg.
Hi, this is always the weird part, because we're recording in the present for the future. For you guys, it'll all be the past. So
it's like Tenet.
Yeah, it's like Back to the Future. Our timelines are weird, but you know.
Special Chris Nolan episode.
We just
to
need
be fair, Tenet
Rufus.
is more plausible than the shit that actually happened last week.
Yeah.
I mean, a guy tasered himself in the balls to death by accident. Like, let's not delude ourselves that this is implausible.
Yeah.
Have you guys been tased? Question. Have either of you been tased before?
No.
No.
I have.
Not yet.
Not yet.
And to actually get tased in the balls is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Like when I was in high school,
And not just once, but like repeatedly, enough to trigger a heart attack.
When I was in high school, one of our friends brought a taser in, and you know, we're fucking dumb high school kids, so what do you think we do with it?
Shoot each other.
Exactly. I was one of those, like, you press it against the person's skin. So, like, we're tasing each other with it, just, you know, being dumb fucking high school kids. And this one kid refused. And, like, we were like, do you want to get tased? Do you want to get tased? We're like, yeah, let's try it out. Like, you know, being dumb kids. And one of the kids is like, no, I don't want to. I've been tased before. I know what it feels like. So then we're all making fun of him for, like, not being tased. And then...
Take that, kid.
Now who's the idiot?
But wait. Then I go to take a piss, and this is like the locker room, and my buddy takes a taser and hits me while I'm peeing.
Oh my God.
And my kidney just stops. And my bladder just stops. And I had the urge to pee for like 2 hours after, and I couldn't until like it eventually was able to work again.
You're in the middle of class and it just looses up. And you're just like, no!
You didn't wet yourself, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Would you tell us if you had?
I would have. I have no shame. You know this, Mike.
It's all
So,
gone.
in case you guys didn't guess it, we are recording this episode the week of the tragedy that happened at the Capitol. And we want to keep a normal recording schedule, so we're doing this. The book we're going to talk about this week is The Worm and His Kings by Hailey Piper. And we do want to apologize for putting her book with this heavy topic, as well as this topic kind of weighs heavy on our hearts. And I'm sure even going into whenever this episode goes live, this event will probably still be heavy on our hearts as well. So, firstly, apologize to Ms. Piper. The book's great. I think we all recommend you go out and buy it and read it because it's a fantastic book. But it's going to be a heavy episode, to say the least.
A little scatterbrain.
We are recording this on Sunday, January 10th. 4 days ago, white supremacists, under the leadership of President Donald Trump, launched a fascist attack against our government in an attempt to overthrow the illegal election.
In quotes.
No, it was a legal.
Oh, wait, did you say legal? I thought you said illegal.
I said illegal, too.
Well, I apologize. My brain is going about like 1,000 thoughts a minute. So we have survived an attempted fascist overthrow of our government, and we're reeling a little bit here.
Yeah, Mike, it's just memes, though. They're just a little Cooperino.
Yeah.
It's just memes. That's all it is.
So I'll be honest right up front. I loved Hailey Piper's book. I mentioned it briefly when we had her on as a guest a few episodes ago. I don't know exactly when this episode is going to launch, when our listeners will be able to hear it. But for us, January 6th was just a few days ago. It may be a few months for the listeners at home. But for us, it's something that we're still processing and still reeling from. It's still fresh in our minds. And I think it's going to be a day that lives in infamy for quite a long, long time. And we're going to be facing repercussions of this day for a long, long time, regardless of finally getting a new president who is an actual human being and not an orange garbage bag in a skin suit filled with rats.
Speaking of our new president, right now, president-elect, but he's going to be our new president. Yes, Trump supporters, he is your president too. Did you see that?
If we had to survive the last 4 years with the shit that we put up with, then guess you guys can handle having Biden for 4 years if we were able to make it through Trump. There's going to be a fucking cakewalk, okay?
Yeah. Did you see the press conference Biden gave the other day?
Which one? This is not who we are bullshit, because it's very clearly who we are.
That made me very angry.
And 74 million Americans voted for Donald Trump, an increase of 10% from his 2016 numbers. So don't tell me this is not who we fucking are, because it very clearly is. Every time this shit happens, this is not who we are. This is not who we are. Every school shooting, every time a cop kills a black man without a gun for fun, this is not who we are. It fucking well is who we are.
It's very much who we are. But I wanted to talk about the end of that press conference, because I think the end of that press conference kind of tells us what we're going to be in for the Biden presidency, where when Biden's walking off stage, one of the journalists at the conference asks a question, and as soon as the question starts, you see Biden stop walking, and he listens to the question, and the person's asking about, like, when the vaccine's going to be available for, like, the mass public. And Biden stops, he looks at the guy, and then he says that his next press conference is going to be about the vaccine and about the virus. And then he leaves, which to me, like, blew my fucking mind, because I think I'm just so fucking traumatized from Trump storming off stage to a barrage of questions to actually have a man listen and answer the fucking question, like, blew my fucking mind.
You mean because the entire Trump press conference would be filled with lie after lie after lie after lie, and then the press would try to get actual legitimate answers and facts out of the man, and he would storm off the stage because they're being too mean. You're mean people. I don't like you. You're mean. You're a mean woman. And then just leaves, gets up on his little tiny child's toy horse and rides away.
Or like he gets into a stroller and somebody pushes him away.
I'm about to have a fucking heart attack in the middle of this episode.
Well, we're not going to be all about what happened this episode, but I think it just needs to be said that if you're a Trump voter,
go fuck yourself.
Don't listen to us.
I don't think we have many of those.
No, I don't think we do either. Get psychological help, go through cult deprogramming, and fix yourself.
Go find a therapist. See a therapist.
Legitimately, you need help.
Go to therapy. If more people went to therapy in this world, we'd have a lot more fucking rational people.
Or just gonna say, don't assume you know everything. Don't assume you are right in that
everything else is a liberal conspiracy.
Matt, fuck you. I'm always right.
I mean, I kind of am too, and I'm aware of it. Which is the problem. Like, the whole last 4 years, I have felt like Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, where he's like, boy, I hate being right all the time. Like, oh, you have a park of dinosaurs. This is not going to end well. Okay, there's bad shit that's going to be happening.
The last 4 years have felt like Jurassic World, where it's like,
and then all the dinosaurs break loose, and Jeff Goldblum's like, boy, I hate being right all the time.
I'd say,
That's how I have felt for 4 fucking years. Like, oh, hey, we put a fascist white supremacist in office. This is not going to end well. And then fucking January 6th rolls around.
I would say the last 4 years reminds me of Jurassic World, where everyone knows the dangers of this fucking park by now. Yeah. Why the fuck do it?
Yeah. It's like World War II was Jurassic Park. The Trump presidency is Jurassic World. It's like we have been through all of this. We've seen the first 3 movies, and now it's like, this isn't going to end well. No one's going to be making it through this very, very much intact.
Like, I was, what was it, Wednesday when this fascist coup was happening, I was driving home from work listening to the news in fucking awe as, like, what was going on.
Yeah.
And it was, like, heartbreaking. Legit, I haven't felt as, like, doomy as I did maybe when, I mean, I'm going to age myself here.
Like all of 2020?
Yeah. All 2020 has been pretty bad. But no, like, my heart sank into my stomach deeper than it did during 9/11.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I mean...
And I was like 11 when 9/11 happened.
Trump has done to this country what Osama bin Laden failed at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bin Laden and the hijackers, they killed 3,000 people. They wiped out 2 buildings. With the course of COVID-19 and Trump's failure to respond or even treat it as something other than a liberal hoax has cost us nearly, right now, I don't even know what the death toll number is at, but we're looking at like 350,000 dead currently. Today, they have stormed the Capitol. He led an insurrection. There is no question about that. The sitting president of the United States led a fascist insurrection against the government he is in charge in.
Yep.
Osama bin Laden didn't have that ability. He wishes he could have done what Donald Trump has done.
He just, yeah. I mean, if you look at it, Trump basically knew of what everybody, well, all these people were thinking and voiced it and was able to nurture it into this psychoness that we currently have. Obama, I like... My brain is just fried. It's just insane to think about, like...
Live on air, you have just heard Matt become radicalized by the right.
Yeah. Out of everybody, yep, that's me. I'm the radicalized one. I just,
Matt has his HH tattoos on one shoulder, 88 on the other. He's got lightning bolts down his forearms.
I wanted a 13, but they drew a 31. It's an old Offspring reference right there.
Yeah, there is an old Offspring reference.
It's just great. Like, these people, I don't even know if I was right saying that they think they're right. I think the problem is they were so wanting somebody else to think for them, and they had somebody.
What they are is entitled.
Yeah.
They're wrong as fuck. They think they're right. What they are is entitled.
Yes. And they don't want to listen to anybody other than themselves or somebody who's telling them what they believe. They don't want to be questioned. It's funny because these are the people who complain about participation trophies.
And you got that asshole walking away with the lectern from the Speaker of the House.
Yeah. And so
they caught that guy, though.
His little participation trophy.
Yeah.
But he got arrested.
Good. I hope they execute him as a fucking traitor.
These are the people who, they complain about it because they are the ones who throw up a huge storm and fight and kick and pay off people so that their little league team will be first place. And they teach their kids, like, well, as long as you complain enough and you talk to the right people who might agree with you, you'll get what you want. It's not a participation trophy. It's a number one trophy because everyone else was tired and said, this is a stupid Little League game. And I really don't care. You can have your stupid first place trophy.
Yeah. And you know what participation trophies fucking teach? The value of hard work.
Exactly.
Like, you know what? You tried. You didn't get there. Try harder again.
Because otherwise it's just, you quit because you didn't win first, or you throw up a storm. And that's what's happening here, is these people are quitting because their guy didn't get first place. They're looking at every other opportunity to say, well, see, he should have had first place, but it was the machines, and it was this person, and it was that person.
I forget, Mike and Matt, did we do this when Obama lost? Not when Obama lost, when Hillary lost? Did we do this? Did we do this?
Internally? Mentally? Maybe a little. Before we get to that, I mean, just to kind of roll it back to that 9/11 comparison with Trump succeeding where bin Laden failed. Rich, you might be too young. I don't know how much you were paying attention to shit as an 11-year-old. Matt, I don't even know how fucking old you are.
I just wanted to play Final Fantasy. That's all I wanted to do.
But, I mean, if you look at where America was at after 9/11, when we were severely wounded and shell-shocked by this terrorist attack, we came through that as one country.
Yes.
For the most part. I know there are people of color and minority and ethnic cultures that probably didn't feel that way. For white America, we came through it feeling united. Regardless of whether or not you agreed with George Bush and his presidency prior to 9/11 or in the aftermath of 9/11, but on 9/11, we were one country. Okay, I remember listening to George Bush, and I will never, ever agree with the Patriot Act and a lot of what our government did post 9/11. And say what you will about George Bush, but on 9/11, when he was standing on the terror site, the remains of the World Trade Center, we were fucking with him.
Yeah.
That was our president. And in that time, we were all united. We were all Americans. For 4 years, all Trump has done is sown division.
No, Mike, the left side's the dividing side.
Yeah, now's not really the time for that joke. For me, anyway, because, I mean, we're not one country. The rhetoric and the gulf between us has grown insurmountable, and Donald Trump has caused that. That road has been building for a long, long time. But at the end of the day, he's the one who took advantage of it and made it worse and tore this nation apart. To the point that he has a literal cult that storms the Capitol on his demands with the attempt to kill our congressmen and our congresswomen and the vice president of the United States and the Speaker of the House, and on the command of the President of the United States in an attempt to wipe out the line of succession, not just disrupt the electoral count. There were men there with zip ties and guns, and it's very, very clear what they would have done had they been able to. They were there to kill people. They posted on Parler and Facebook about how they were going to go and kill some congressmen, how they were going to kill Nancy Pelosi. And Trump gave them the go-ahead. There's no comparing Donald Trump to Osama bin Laden, because what Donald Trump has done is insurmountably worse than anything Osama bin Laden had been able to accomplish. Right now, our sitting president, on Sunday, January 10th, 4 days after leading an insurrection against the government he commands, is still in office. We have a terrorist in the Oval Office at the head of our government. Osama bin Laden wishes he could have done what Donald Trump is capable of. And we're here to talk about Hailey Piper's The Worm and His King.
Yes. And before we
my heart is not fucking in it today.
Yeah. It's okay, man. We're all in this together, Mike.
If you're listening, Hailey, my deepest fucking apologies, because this book is a fantastic read.
It's just a heavy day for us. Yeah. A heavy time for us.
Yeah.
But I agree, this book is really fantastic.
So this is going to be a little bit of a different episode.
I do want to, before we get, I think we did a lot of vetting, and before we get to our weekly recommendations, which I don't think is going to be a lot, to be honest with you, I do want to say one good thing about last week. Can I?
Yeah, I'm going to take I got my fuck Trump mug of tea right now. I'm going to drink from that. You go ahead.
So this week we had a monumental thing that happened that did not involve terrorists trying to throw a cooperino on the government, and that is Georgia voted blue.
Yes.
Yay. So now Senate and the House have a Democratic majority, and
well, presuming the inauguration on the 21st goes okay.
That's true. Again, that's the scary thing of recording in the past. We have no idea what your present is.
That's true. Yeah. So everything I say has an asterisk next to it.
Yeah. I mean, by the time this airs, the Red Skull could be the president. We don't know.
So some cool things about this, and also one infuriating thing. I'll do the infuriating thing first to get the cool things out after. So one of the senators from Georgia, Raphael Warnock, did you guys know that he was arrested at the same Capitol building that the Trump cult stormed?
I believe I heard that, yeah. It's funny that a black man would be arrested. But
yeah, do you know what he was doing when he got arrested?
Protesting?
He was peacefully protesting.
Oh, you mean he didn't lead an insurrection against the government and have zip ties with them?
He was peacefully protesting the healthcare budget cuts that the government was proposing at the time by having a pray group in the building. He was leading a prayer in the building.
So and now the cops actually work?
Yeah. The cops actually work when it's a black man doing it.
Hold on. Did the cops invite the health budget protesters into the building?
That was during a time where the house was open for people to enter and stuff.
Oh, did any of the cops take selfies with them?
No.
No. That's odd.
Walk them down the steps.
I thought they were all about taking selfies with the protesters from what I saw on Wednesday.
But now he's a senator in that building.
Yes.
So fuck that. Also, John Ossoff, who's the other senator coming from Georgia. This is a good note for my heart. He's an anime fan. So guys, we did it. We got a weeb in the fucking government.
Yay! Everyone's gonna have giant swords and spiky hair now.
Fucking yes.
So maybe if they open the next session with a prayer, he can read from the book of manga.
Also, John Ossoff is the first Jew to be elected from a southern former Confederate state.
That one I knew more than the anime one.
Yeah. And Raphael Warnock is the first black senator from a formerly Confederate state post-Reconstruction. Because there were black senators during Reconstruction, but none post. So he's the first black senator from a southern state post-Reconstruction.
I'm kind of feeling like when we talk about a formerly Confederate state, we need to put the formerly in quotation marks. But,
that's true. But you know what I mean.
I do.
So I think that's a good thing that happened last week, and we should at least highlight that because Wednesday really overshadowed that. And I think what happened in Georgia needs to be said because it was really monumental.
Yes.
And We have to thank Stacey Abrams for all of her work in doing that, because that woman...
Stacey Abrams worked her fucking ass off.
She is a motherfucking American hero.
She worked so fucking hard, and she got those votes in, and
Mitch McConnell will no longer be majority leader.
Bitch McConnell, am I right, guys?
So long, you stupid fucking traitorous turtle.
By the way, if you go to Mitch McConnell's Wikipedia page, they have his senior high school yearbook photo, and
am I not turtle enough for your turtle club?
No. If you look at it, this dude definitely got swirlies all the time in high school.
Good.
Because
should have
holy
stopped
shit,
giving it.
I was bullied in high school, and just judging by how way he looked, I would have bullied him. So just putting that out there. But fuck, it's been a week.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some good shit. Let's talk about stuff that makes us happy. Let's talk about some horror.
Can do.
And
fake horror, not real life horror.
Yeah, fake horror, fictional horrors. So I'm a weeb, if you guys didn't know already.
Now, what does that mean? How does that word tie into anime?
So weeb is short for weeaboo, and weeaboo is an insult for people who like anime and manga.
Oh,
but
okay.
But weeboos have kind of taken it back as kind of like a tongue-in-cheek joke.
Okay.
Nice.
So pretty much just means I really enjoy anime and manga.
Right.
But if the original meaning is someone who idolizes a foreign culture other than their own.
Oh, kind of like the terrorists on Wednesday, how they identify with the Confederacy and the Nazis. They would be weebs.
Yeah, they'd be weebs.
Okay.
So
sorry, I had to go there. I know we're trying to go away from that, but I had to.
So I have been hearing about this manga for a while called Chainsaw Man, and everyone who's reads really big into the manga crowd, they're all like, Chainsaw Man's the next big thing. Chainsaw Man's the next big thing. I looked at it and I was like, is it though? And then
Stephen Graham Jones tweeted about this.
He did tweet about this. I've tweeted a lot about this, and I'm writing right now. It's going to be published by the time this is up. I'm working on an essay about this series as well.
Maybe I should follow you on Twitter. I didn't see that.
Oh, fuck you too, Mike. I'll take back every tweet I ever made promoting your books.
Are we supposed to follow each other on Twitter?
Are you even on Twitter, Matt?
No. I'm not on Twitter. That's where all those commies are.
So I picked up the first 2 volumes of Chainsaw Man, and if you enjoy Evil Dead 2, you'll fucking love the series. But it becomes something completely different by the end.
Army of
And
Dark.
the way the writer has the bait and switch they throw was one of the greatest things I've ever read in a long fucking time. Chainsaw Man, when it comes to manga and when it comes to horror storytelling, has really become something special once I finish the first part of the series. By the time this episode goes live, the first 4 or first 5 volumes are probably going to be out, and that's not even going to finish the whole first part of the series, because the twist doesn't happen until chapter 81. But once that twist hits,
Christ.
but the thing is, before chapter 81, it is a fucking wild ride. It is so chaotic, so much fun, so fucking batshit crazy. And then the twist happens, and it's holy fucking shit. It was building to this. I didn't even fucking see this coming. What the fuck? How did this happen? And I love it. The story is pretty much, it's about a kid named Denji. And Denji's a 16-year-old kid. He never went to school. His father owed lots of money to the Yakuza. And then his father died. So now Denji owes that money to the Yakuza. And Denji sold his kidney for money. He sold his eye for money. He sold one of his testicles for money. And he's just trying to find ways to pay off his dad's debt. In this world, demons exist alongside humans. And he comes across a little cute demon he names Pochito, which is like a dog with a chainsaw nose. And him and Pochito make a contract together where Pochito will help him kill demons for money, and Denji will give Pochito shelter and food. And so they team up together. And then one day, the Yakuza make a deal with a demon, and that demon lies to the Yakuza about their power, and it's actually the demon of the undead, and it turns all the Yakuza to zombies.
Nice.
And the Yakuza kill and dismember Denji into like a million different pieces. And Pochito lives, and Pochito uses his power to bring Denji back to life in return of Denji sharing his dreams with Pochito. And Denji comes back to life. Only difference is his heart is now a demon's heart, and there's a ripcord hanging out of his chest. And when he pulls the ripcord, he turns into Chainsaw Man, who's like, his head turns into a chainsaw, his arms turn to chainsaws, and he just fucks shit up.
How does he see?
It's like a weird metal mask thing. But like he just transforms into this like powerful demon, and he just fucks shit up. And like the series kind of follows him as he learns what the world's really like after he breaks free from the Yakuza and begins to make friends, and just kind of learns about what's really going on behind the scenes, as well as him also being like a 16-year-old kid who doesn't know how the world works. And all these like kind of girls are taking advantage of him to try to use him for like his abilities. And he doesn't know. Like, his first dream is to touch a boob. And that's what he wants to accomplish, is just to touch a boob. And like, once he does that, he's just very disappointed because it wasn't how he thought it would be.
Oh, I was gonna say that's a dream that never really goes away. Even after you have experienced it, it's a dream that does not die.
And the best one is like his second dream is to kiss a girl. And when he gets his first kiss, the woman's drunk and barfs in his mouth.
Oh, yeah, lovely. That's not ideal.
And it just kind of goes on from there, but it's a lot of wild fun. I highly recommend Chainsaw Man. Like, even if you're just like, you don't even care about manga, but you're interested in different mediums for horror storytelling, this thing is really something special. And I honestly, it's probably my second favorite manga. Maybe that'll change once it goes further, but right now it's like my second favorite. So,
have they made any indication of an end point? Is this going to be something that ends, or is it going to be another manga that has like 112 volumes and it's still going?
So the thing about manga is it tends to go for a while because it's serialized, right? So a lot of manga, the goal for it is to make money, and magazines will serialize the stories. So that's kind of why they go for so long, because if the manga's selling well, the magazines want the creator to keep making chapters to keep selling copies. Sometimes the people who are making manga, they have a long-term story and it's able to go really well. Sometimes you have creators face burnout. Like the guy who made Dragon Ball Z, he had really bad burnout. And you can tell if you like go through Dragon Ball Z, like when he had the burnout, because the storytelling just kind of like stumbles a lot. With Chainsaw
pages
Man,
of no text.
with Chainsaw Man, everyone thought it was going to end with this arc, because everything it was doing was pointing to like an endpoint. And then when we got to the endpoint, it just says end of part 1, public safety arc. So that tells us that there's going to be a part 2. And part 1's like 97 chapters. So I think this one's going to go for like probably maybe another part. We'll see how long it goes. But some manga has just been going for a while and it sells copies, but they also like, I'm rambling now, but to give an example of my favorite manga, which is Berserk, which if you're a horror fan, I strongly recommend you read Berserk, because it's like one of the best dark fantasy series I've ever read. But the thing about Berserk is the author started it in 1988, and it's still not done.
Jesus.
The thing is that once he started it, he knew his endpoint, and he's like slowly been working there. But when he faces burnout or he feels like burnout coming, he'll take a break. And he'll like step away from the project for a bit just to like refresh himself, and then he'll come back to it. So like even though it's been going on for a long fucking time, it's a very solid story because it's paced very well and the creator knows not to push himself if he can't push himself. And it sells so well that there's no like pressure to keep on putting out those chapters every week.
I don't know how they do it. Hats off to them.
I will say the guy who did Berserk, he published his first manga when he was 10.
Wow.
And he's still going. He's like 55 and he's still going. I'll give him all the credit. Some of them are just, there's all the manga that just don't interest me. So I just don't read it, but I think it's a good medium for horror storytelling. So I enjoy the stuff that dips into horror. But that being said, Chainsaw Man, there'll be more volumes out by the time this is released. If you want to save money on the volumes, I highly recommend just getting the Viz Media app and paying $2 to subscribe. And those $2 gives you access to all the chapters. So instead of paying like $10 a volume, you can just pay $2 a month and get access to all the chapters.
Cool.
That's me being cheap. Being cheap like me.
Or being smart.
That's true. But no, I highly recommend Chainsaw Man. I have another recommendation shortly after, but that's about it for me. What about you, Mike? It's been a lot, I know. This week's been a lot.
I trying to put my thoughts in order. I read an anthology called Shiver.
Oh, is that the Nico anthology?
Yep, Nico Bell, author of Unnerving's Rewind or Die novella Food Fright, makes her debut as an anthologist with this themed collection focusing on winter-based horror, Arctic terror, all that fun stuff. I fucking love Arctic horror, okay? Give me blood on snow and I'm a happy, happy guy. So this anthology seemed like something that was going to be custom built just for me. And for the most part, I mean, there are some really, really, really good stories in here, but it's also just a lot. There's 30 stories in this anthology.
Holy crap.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a big one. And I found myself at points finding it unnecessarily large. And I like Nico. She's great. But I do wish she had been a bit more judicious in selecting the stories for this. If she would have been a little bit more cold-hearted and got her bloody editor's knives out. It's an overly large anthology, and there were a number of stories in here that along the way I found myself thinking, well, that could have been cut. I don't know why this story was published. This one was just completely amateur hour, and I think it should have been axed. I'm not going to name names here, but there were a few that...
Quality over quantity.
Yeah, it's definitely quantity over quality in a lot of regards. There was one story in here that, and I read an arc, so I might be speaking out of school with this. I don't know if it's going to be different in the final version, but one story in here, like there weren't scene breaks, so it felt like there was a lot of random jumps and head hopping and weird changes in point of view. I don't know if that was the author's intent or if it was just poorly formatted, but it was also just not very well written. But to its credit, there are some. That was the bad. Okay, there's just a lot of stories. It feels very bloated, and I think it could have been cut in half pretty easily and would have been improved for it. But on the good, you do get these awesome stories. Richard Webb does a story that, and it's 8 stories in, which is kind of okay, but it was like the first story that really actually shook me and captivated me because his writing style is just incredible. He has such dark prose and such a strong voice that it was just an immediately compelling story. You've got Christopher Wood, who does this really, really fun creep show kind of creature feature revolving around a meatpacking facility's tainted product.
Oh, nice.
And the two laborers that are charged with cutting up the latest treatment or latest shipment of beef so that it can be packaged for sale.
Ooh.
And they find that this meat is really fucked up and should not be put on sale. And then it gets worse.
Awesome.
Mason McDonald, his story on the frozen waters of Lake Namara revolves around a kid's dare from his friend to walk across a frozen lake, which is a really simple premise. But Mason, I think, in this simplicity, delivers what is probably the most effective synthesis of these cold weather themes with pure terror. He does it really effectively, but also really brutally. Like, there are some, it's a creepy little story. Steve Stred, his story of discovery is kind of like a little bit of a riff on The Descent, where these friends are hiking and they get caught up in a snowstorm and they have to seek refuge, and they end up finding a tunnel, and it goes into the subterranean terror route. But he gives us, I think, one of the more surprising creatures in this whole anthology. Another unnerving Rewind or Die alum is Jessica Guess. I liked her riff on the slasher story with Cirque Berserk. With her story here, The Nightmare Man, she delivers this neat little twist on Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nice.
Where instead of being haunted in her dreams, the woman is haunted in her waking hours and during a snowstorm, which is fun. Red Legault does a fun Cold Day in Hell that's got a little bit of a Ketchum punch to the gut with its twists there, involving a mom on the run who ends up seeking shelter in a mansion that has a lurid history and is now haunted. You got some other stories that are really good, like Sarah Mullen's Thaw, which reads a bit like a Silent Hill kind of story, and Brennan LaFaro's A Shine in the Woods. That one was really fun. So on the whole, there's a solid handful of stories that are really, really, really good. Some that are just absolutely top notch. One guy I never heard of before was Jeremy McGargy, whose story Men Are Moles takes place completely in the dark. These two prisoners are on the run. They escape during a snowstorm from their chain gang and end up falling into this cellar. And it's really psychological, but also some cool body horror elements in it. I've never heard of this guy before. Apparently, he's been making the rounds in a number of anthologies the last few years. He was one of those authors that as soon as I finished this story, I hopped on Amazon to find out what the hell else he's done, because I needed to know who the fuck is this guy, because I need more. So you do have a few stories that are like that, but overall there's also, like I said, it's a lot of bloat. It's a very ambitious anthology, but one that I think would have benefited from a more ruthless selection process rather than, in some ways, it kind of feels like anybody that submitted got published. And that's not a good feel. I doubt that's true. I'm sure there were a number of rejections, but there should have been more.
Yeah, sometimes, I don't know, I like anthologies, but sometimes just too much bloat can really hurt the book.
Yeah. I mean, this is 30 stories. Amazon says it's like 250 Kindle pages, which I'm calling bullshit on, because this took me the entire week to read, and it felt like a bit of an endurance test trying to get through it all. And I do wish it wasn't as chunky as it is. I think there was room for improvement, but the stories that I liked, I really liked, but there were also quite a few that were just meh, and why is this in here?
That's too bad.
So it's also her first anthology. I'm not sure if that plays a role, or it's just kind of like an inexperience butting up against ambition, which, we all have to learn. There's a learning curve to everything. I hope she does more anthologies, and I hope she's a bit stricter in what she gets through or lets through. But overall, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. There were a few stories that were good, but it could have been better.
So, Matt, what about you?
I read Max Booth III's We Need to Do Something.
Yeah, so that's good. A good boy.
Yeah. We've talked about it, so I won't go into too many details, except that was an amazing, captivating read. At our house, we've been working on our floor, so we were all trapped in the basement for a week, and so it was kind of fun to read through this in a day and think about. Now, we weren't trapped in a bathroom, but think about not being able to go upstairs and do anything. So it was like perfect reading, and yeah, it's amazing. If anyone listening hasn't read it, hunt it down. It went somewhere I did not expect, and I love that we honestly don't know. Now that's a spoiler, but we don't know what's happening. We just know that they're trapped in a bathroom, and that's about it. I like the addition of the snake. That was creepy. And, I'm excited to see what it's going to be a movie. Yes. I don't know when it'll come out, but I'm really excited to see how they do that. Mm. It feels very much like it could be almost a stage show. So I think that will make it a really good movie because of the one set. I mean, now they can do some flashbacks because the book has some flashbacks to stuff, but I think most of it will be really cool to see take place in just the bathroom. That was good. The other one that I want to spend a little time maybe talking about was I read one of our former guests, only probably a couple weeks back for everybody, but Eric LaRocca's Starving Ghosts in Every Thread.
Oh, yeah. I was about to start that, actually.
Yes. I finished it last night. And this is his debut novella. He's been in a number of anthologies and magazines, but this is his first novella, and it's a great start. It's funny because we had the book or story he discussed. Let me get words right. The story we discussed with him was Clive Barker's story, and you can see some of that in this, especially near the end. There is some mind manipulation on people's bodies and forms. And when I was reading it last night, I was just like, oh, dude, no wonder you picked that Clive Barker book, because that's in here. And he does a really good job with it. It feels original. It's not the same. The whole story is not the same as that Clive Barker, or the whole novella is not the same as that Clive Barker story. And the power that you see in this novella is not the same that you see in the Barker story, but the concept is enough there where you can see he took inspiration from. But the story itself is this great story about this woman, a young woman, college age girl who lives in a small town. We get little hints and pieces that she's a singer, but something happened and she doesn't sing anymore. And for some reason, her skin peels off into long threads and sometimes flies away, sometimes doesn't. And to reference another story we've discussed, and I cannot remember the title off my hand, she feeds off of people's emotions, which she sees floating above their heads. What story was that? Do you remember what story? I think it was Alyssa Wong.
I think it's Alyssa Wong. Yeah,
I can't remember which one it was, but it's a similar that plays a part in this too, where she this college age woman, when she works at a grocery store and she feeds off of people there, or she feeds off her mother's emotions. And she also has this ability to calm and hold scorpions, which is kind of a little creepy, but works. And yeah, it's just a great story. I really, really dug it. And it's a fast read. It gets really weird at the end. And I'm really excited to see what else he does. I know he's got a poetry collection either out or coming out. And then I think he's also working on another novella or novel. I know he talked about it when we had him on, so just listen to that episode.
Even though we were off 2 weeks, all I'll say is I spent the entire break we had playing Cyberpunk 2077. I did not watch any movies. I legit just played Cyberpunk.
I tried to play Cyberpunk, but I spent the entire break having it crash my PS4 Pro.
So I will say I had that problem too, and I refunded my PS4 copy, and I decided to buy it on Google Stadia. And might I say that Google, if you don't have a nice PC, Google Stadia is the way to play this game.
Okay.
I'm 100% honest. Like, I had no problems with Google Stadia. It ran great. I played it on my dinky little laptop, no problem. Because all it is like it's like a cloud gaming. So like Google has the game installed on their computers and they stream it to you over their servers.
Now, so what is Stadia? Is it like
Steam?
It's like Steam, yeah, but it's like Google. So
okay, so it's not another console or like a Fire that you plug into your TV or something.
Well, they have it works like Fire if you have Google Chromecast.
Okay.
So if you have a Chromecast, you can use Stadia on the Chromecast, and then you can also get a Google controller, like a video game controller, and just use Chromecast to stream it on your TV. It's kind of like Steam, but the thing is, you own the games that you buy. Like you can buy games on Google Stadia and you own them, but what it is instead of installing them on your computer, they're installed over at Google. And Google streams them to you, and it lets you play them using your own controller and everything. So like they run super smooth. As long as you have a good internet connection, it runs smooth, and you get a better like quality gaming experience than you could if you have a computer that's not like as powerful as it could be.
Alrighty.
It's hard to explain. Like it really is, but
I kind of think if it wasn't run by Google, Stadia would be like the Quibbly of gaming.
Well, the thing is, like
who is it? What is it? 2 weeks later, oh, they're out of business now?
Well, here's the joke. When Google Stadia was announced, everybody laughed at it. And now,
now it's the only thing that can run Cyberpunk. And who's laughing now?
Who's laughing now? Google Stadia got a huge leap of users just because it could play Cyberpunk.
Wow.
But there's also the graphics card company, NVIDIA. They also have a cloud gaming service too, and Amazon's also launching a cloud gaming service. Cloud gaming is becoming a thing now. And besides that, I am now reading The 13th Coyote, my first splatter western, and it's really fucking great so far.
I like Triana. What little I've read of him, I've liked.
I like Triana as well.
Totally fell off of those. I was trying to read them as they were coming out, but they've been releasing a lot, which is great. But yeah, I'm so far behind.
It's great and oversaturating at the same time. But we've gone on for a long time without addressing the Worm and His King, so let's give Miss Piper her due.
Do you guys, after this past week, remember anything of this book?
I'm gonna be dead honest. I started reading this book before the incident on Wednesday happened. Then Wednesday happened, and I couldn't read this book again until yesterday because I just had no focus. Yeah. So I finished it. So I do remember some stuff that's happened.
I read this before Thanksgiving, so it's a little bit cloudy. I had wanted to and had intended to go back and reread it, or at the very least skim through it again and look at some of the notes I had made on this back in November. I did not do that. Instead, I have been doom scrolling on Twitter, going through these Twitter investigative threads on white supremacists and identifying attackers, which have been a absolutely engrossing thread and also completely nightmarish. So I've been a little bit overwhelmed by everything that's happened these last few days, and I did not do my due diligence to prepare myself for today's episode.
It's okay. I'm sure Hailey will forgive you. I forgive you. Matt, I'm not too sure.
Nope. It's uncalled for.
So, The Worm and His Kings, if you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend you do. It takes place in New York City's in the 1990 exactly, and it follows a woman named Monique who's trying to find her girlfriend Donna, who has disappeared. She hears rumors of a taloned monster who kind of snatches people and takes them away. And she believes that this happened to Donna. So she's trying to find this monster to find a pathway to find Donna. And she ends up coming across occults and something otherworldly that has connections to the creation of our world and possibly the destruction of it.
Yeah, it you know, especially when you start getting near the end, a lot of wildness happens.
This book's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds timely.
Well, I will say it doesn't, only because these people are somewhat following physics, which means they're following science, which means that
they're not Trumpists.
They're not Trumpists.
They're not Trumpists.
Okay. They're not Trumpers.
So there's the difference part.
Ah, that's right. That damn science always getting in the way.
Yeah.
God damn science.
I mean,
evolution's just a theory, you know, like gravity is just a theory.
Like the Earth being round.
It's just a theory.
Just a theory.
Basketballs are flat. The Earth is flat.
I can fly straight. Come on now.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. You know, it's funny because even before, I think it was Mike, when you had talked about it, I had wanted to get it. So I had ordered it, and it took, I'll blame all the craziness of COVID and everything like that, which unfortunately means the post offices were a bit slow. So it took me a long time to get it. But then as soon as I did, I just burned right through it.
Yeah, it's a quick read. It's a novella. I think it's like, 100 and some pages?
Yeah, like 16 or something like that. But even, it grips you because there's this kind of because it just keeps building upon itself. You know, like Monique, she's homeless, and she lives in this freedom tunnel, and there's this empty place next to her that everybody kind of avoids. And so then you get that, and then you get this hints to this monster called Grey Hill. And then as you're going, you start getting a little bit on what's going on with Monique because she's got some scars. And then, you get Donna.
Mental and physical.
Yes, exactly. And so it keeps going, and Grey Hill shows up. So she chases after this monster, and that takes you up New York and into this
tunnel and into this elevator.
Yeah, this it was like a music hall, and she meets this Corinne. Maybe I'll pronounce it wrong.
Corinne?
Maybe. I'm the last. Yeah. If you've been listening, I'm the last person that can pronounce words correct. So
yeah, I thought it was Corinne, but I could be wrong.
I thought it was Corinne too.
It probably is.
Yeah. In my head, I mean, Matt's usually wrong anyway. So
especially when it comes to pronouncing stuff, I don't know. It comes out.
You're still better than Rich when it comes to pronouncing names you've not heard before.
Yes.
Todd Keisling. Anybody?
I'll never live that down.
No, you won't.
It'll never be forgotten.
There's another one Matt missed, wasn't it?
It was. I'm telling you, it's a conspiracy. But yeah, so the way that Hailey just kind of keeps building on itself in such a way that you don't want to put it down because you get a hint at something and you're like, oh crap, I need to know what this is. And that just takes you to another hint, and then keeps going. And then even once you start getting into this cult and this singing, they sing to this worm. And that just then opens up the world even more, where you're just like, well, crap, what are these guys all about? It's just this amazing. It takes you right in, and you don't stop. So yeah, there's a lot happening. It's a good story.
Yeah, this story, it's so hard to break down because so much happens in such little time.
Yeah. There's a lot of commentary to it. Capitalism and sexuality and all of these different layers of self-discovery. The philosophy that she puts behind the worm, this cosmic creature, the worm, and the cult that worships it, that kind of secret history of the world. wish I had more to say on it, but I remember absolutely loving it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really fucking cool.
Right,
Yeah,
the cult and its beliefs and these gray hill creatures were just, it was, I remember being really unique and fascinating, and it's a world that I would like to see her explore more. I think she could really get some mileage out of this.
Because just the history of
system,
of this worm, and like the fact that, like, you know, as you all know, spoilers, like the worm was here a long time ago and like found kings, and then like kind of gave them up. And this was like in Pangea time, so the country was all together, and then the worm came back for was a wife, right? And they didn't
the worm was
want
looking for like a wife.
Yeah, did it? None of the worm's kings gave up anything. So the worm went back in time, smashed Pangea, and now what we're reading in 1990 is supposed to be the third coming. And so just even all of that, and you get all of that through this cult and like these people, and their love of it, and they're like, well, this is what the time is, and we're ready for the worm, and we have our kings and everything, and it's just, there's a lot to. She could definitely jump back into this and give us this history. You don't need it because you can let this kind of, she gives you enough that you know what's happening, and there's enough kind of hidden that lets you kind of draw your own conclusions. But it would be cool to kind of see this play out even a little bit deeper.
Yeah. I think she could get a lot of mileage out of this concept if she wants to keep digging deeper into this world or elaborating on more things. I think she has a literal world of possibilities with this.
I agree with that. I also think her character work in this story is very strong.
Yes.
Like
the
way
Monique's history is so richly drawn.
Yes.
And the way she chooses to tell us more about Monique helps us like expand our knowledge of the character, but she doesn't just give us a big info dump that's like, this is Monique and everything that she's been through. It's more, she gives it to us scene by scene, piece by piece, while Monique is looking for Donna.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a vivid history of her scars, how she got these scars, as well as her relationship with Donna and how it's kind of ended up the way it did.
Yeah, and it's done in a smart way about giving us those pieces, because I had been seeing other people kind of talking, and this book isn't in first person, it's in third person, but they talk about like if your main character and you're kind of following in their head, because that's in this one we are solely focused on Monique, but saying like, and if our main character in first person knows everything, they wouldn't be kind of doing that mystery of like, oh, I found this item and I'm gonna reveal this item later, where it's kind of this like fake tension. Here it's just like Rich was saying, like we could get this full history because we are solely focused on Monique, and she experienced all the things in the past. She's already experienced them, so we could get the history of the doctor and meeting up with Donna and her parents and everything, but we don't because of a purpose, and the way it's revealed totally makes sense. There isn't the tension's there, but it's not like a fake forced tension. It makes sense that as she's meeting with these cults and answering some of the questions and looking back and think when she meets up with who she's looking for, that past kind of comes out, and we see what happened with the doctor, which I loved, because you don't, in the kind of near the beginning, you know that she went to a doctor and that something bad happened, and you get like a hint about her kidneys, but you don't get the full hint until the end, and that's when you kind of realize. And I really like that it gets us in that headspace, why Monique is wearing this hat and wearing these scarves, and why she is kind of covering up, and what her experience with Donna was before, and how that really helped kind of shape her. I love that, and it was done in such a great way of, again, not just calling it out and saying what Monique's past experience is. It's like, this is a natural progression. We're getting this natural experience of hers, and it's done in an amazing way.
Yeah, it's neat that she wears all of these layers of clothing not just because she's a homeless woman.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't have to wear her entire wardrobe on her back, but it's because she is covering up all of these scars and physical insecurities and physiological changes that it's very representative of her as a character. It's one of those things where the clothes kind of make the woman, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a great scene when she's chasing Gray Hill at the beginning and she's in a subway and she feels self-conscious about her clothes, especially when she's trying to talk to somebody. And so like you kind of, again, that leads you into believing one thing. And I love too how she's like, well, as soon as I started asking for money, everyone ignored me so I could continue on my chase, because that happens a lot on the subway. When somebody's begging for money, you start kind of looking the other way. And so but that kind of like, because exactly, it kind of gives you that thought like, oh, okay, well, she's worried about her clothing because of this. And then you kind of then start getting more into it the later you go into the story. So I thought that was a really neat way to kind of lead you down that path. It's really good.
this book is awesome. And it's also one book that we're discussing that's like kind of hard to spoil.
Yeah.
Because everything about it is just like everything about it's all up to the experience and how the experience affects you as the reader. Like, yeah. I mean, there's spoilers, obviously, but like...
Yeah, I mean, one of the elements that ties into this is that there have been a spate of abductions of homeless women.
Yes.
That they eventually find out is because of this Gray Hill creature. And at
behind
first
the
it
abductions.
seems, yeah, at first it seems completely random who's being taken. And you think that Monique is just searching for Donna because she thinks that Donna has been abducted. But then it ends up she is very uniquely tied to these abductions in unexpected ways.
Which was a really surprising scene to me because I wasn't expecting that to happen.
Yeah.
Not at all. Yeah, because you get a lot, again, when you get into this music hall and you get into the tunnels underneath, you get Gray Hill, which turns out to be called the Maiden. And then you also get these other creatures, one of them being a mimic. So you get a lot of that stuff that's happening and you're like, oh, okay, well, this is, and then you see somebody through singing get destroyed kind of through time. And so you're kind of thinking about all that stuff and you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense of why they're kidnapping these certain women. And then you get a little bit of that history about the wife. But then when you kind of see what actually happens, you're like, oh, crap.
Yeah. And even like once you see what happens, it's a big twist and a big shock. But it's also like the emotional climax that the story has once Monique finds the answers that she's looking for is really, really fulfilling.
We're doing a pretty good job tiptoeing around the spoiler.
Should we just say it?
I think we can. At this point, for everybody, we'll get into a little deeper spoilers so you can skip past the rest of this, but we don't have to spoil about like Final Guys.
Ding ding ding.
Yeah. Read this book, hunt it down, get it. It's really good. Off Limits Press.
They're putting on nothing. They're 2 for 2 so far. I can't wait for the third book.
Yes. So get it. You'll love it. It deals with a lot of really cool stuff. So yeah, now we'll dig into the spoiler territory.
So it turns out that Donna is one of the kings and has been behind the abductions.
Yes.
Yeah, and she has been sending the Grey Maidens to abduct Monique. But they keep taking the wrong girl because the description is to like go and get this lady with red hair. It's just been abducting everyone with red hair. And it's like, these are all the wrong people. You fucking idiot.
Like that scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 when they're trying to tell Groot to grab the helmet thing and he just keeps grabbing the wrong stuff. It's like that. But then so it's Donna trying to find Monique because then Monique can be the bride to the worm and welcome back the kings and everything.
Yeah.
And it's Monique is special because it's like she's gone through the traumas that she's gone through would be like the fulfilling ones for the king, for the worm, and her soul being like a motherly soul and a compassionate soul.
Yes.
Would be a good like bride for the king.
Yes. And
not the king, the worm.
Hailey does a really good job of kind of stepping us into that because we see, I think it's the first king, we see that the first king was pregnant and they discussed the fact that king was just a title. It doesn't mean you have to be a male.
Yeah.
And so then once you kind of find out for Monique, and it's just so sad. Like what happened is that she went to this like really shady doctor. This is 1990 because she was transitioning and the doctor botched it and stole. I mean, like, I think basically stole one of her kidneys to sell.
Yeah, stole one of her kidneys and botched her sex change.
Yes. So that's when so that's Hailey kind of steps us into that because then you're like, okay, well, this is why she can be the king and the bride because it's just a title. And then she can still have, I guess, the worm's child.
Yeah.
So yeah, I loved, it's the way Hailey kind of steps us into what actually happened to Monique. And, it's absolutely heartbreaking that she had to go through that. Monique's parents, basically, we don't know why her parents kind of disowned her. We can
assume. We haven't even enough to infer that why they kicked her out.
Right. But like in the beginning of the story, we just assume it's because what we assume is that Monique just didn't want to live in that house, didn't want to live in those rules anymore, that they were just going to keep her locked up in a room and not let her go out anymore. And that's why she was like, well, I can't turn back to my parents and why she's living in Freedom Tunnel and why she kind of had these choices. But then, yeah, at the end, you kind of get the idea. And I think even Donna mentions that where it's like, the world is hurting. The worm's going to fix it all.
The worm will make us a world without any hate.
Yes, your parents hate you because of this change. The world hates you because of this change, and the worm can fix it. And so, yeah, that kind of, again, that Hailey's giving us at the beginning of the story enough hints to help us move on, and then also kind of setting it all up, the payoff is just perfect because of all these things. And so, yeah, the other thing that she kind of goes into, which is what I was talking about with the physics, is it's interesting because Monique meets up with Corinne, or Corinne, however you want to pronounce her.
Corinne.
That one name. And Corinne's like, the worm isn't a worm. It's a wormhole. This weird time thing happened, and that's all it is. This is all just science. They're worshiping just the science stuff, but they're putting a different name to it.
Yeah. There's a lot of depth to this cosmic horror.
Yes.
That Hailey goes so far in establishing this, like well beyond any of the boundaries that Lovecraft would have done, whereas Lovecraft would be, it was a very long time ago and these gods are very old, and Hailey's like, all right, look, bitches, you got Pangea.
Heard of Pangea?
And you got these wormholes. And there's a lot of multidimensionality to this. There's a lot of depth to it that I think you don't typically find in cosmic horror because we just kind of build it around those traditional tropes of, well, it's alien and it's old and that's all we really need to get into. Yeah. But Hailey really walks us through this religion and why it could be taken as a legitimate belief because there is all of these little backstops to it that explore and explain what this religion is and why they worship this worm.
Totally. I have a question for you guys. When did you piece together that Monique was trans?
I don't remember.
Way later than I probably should have. When it was revealed and I started thinking about the hat and the scarves, I was like, oh, it was there.
Was for me. It was when Monique met Donna at her job, and Donna got fired from it.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, oh, that's when I pieced it together.
Yeah, it was probably later for me. I think I vaguely recall believing that it was just on the surface very, and I don't know how to phrase this without sounding like a dolt, but just like a basic lesbian relationship between them.
Yeah.
And that is what caused the rift between Monique and her parents.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't handle her sexuality. I didn't realize until far later than I probably should have just how deep those rivers flowed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because, again, when you kind of hear about the doctor thing and the surgery and the fact that the kidney was stolen, you're like, there's a couple different ways you could kind of go into what, like, it could have been any surgery to visit this doctor, because like we don't realize that the doctor literally was doing this just in a storage unit until later. You just kind of like get these bits and pieces, and all you really know is that, I mean, at first all you know is she has got these scars and things hurt, and then we get a bathroom scene which really hurts, and you kind of find out a little bit more about that. And I think we do get a mention of a scar on the stomach, which then could be, I mean, we know it's the kidney, but it could have been anything. And then you kind of hear the kidney, and at first I was like, oh, well, that makes sense when you're especially with the kidney stolen and this doctor not sound great, that makes sense for the bathroom scene. But then, a little bit later, you kind of find out the scars on the legs and everything, and you're like, oh, okay, I kind of am getting where we're going here.
I mean, also, too, there's those bits of commentary that are mixed in where it's like, okay, you've got the sexuality component where if you're approaching it as a lesbian dynamic where Monique is estranged from her parents, Donna gets fired because of her sexual orientation. Well, I mean, that's just fucking America, right?
Yeah,
that
right.
Shit can happen. So then they can't make rent on their apartment anymore, so they don't have a safety net, so they get evicted. So now they're homeless. But because they're American, they don't have health care because they don't have a job. So they don't have any social safety nets to kind of help keep them along. But she gets this kidney infection, you think. So she's like, okay, so you don't have health insurance, you don't have a job, you're an American. Your only option is to go to some disreputable back alley hack who will cut you up for $50. And then next thing you know, you don't have any more you don't have a kidney because the guy stole it so he can make money.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I mean, this is just American capitalism and American healthcare. It doesn't necessarily indicate it's a story of transition until you get more information later. And like we said earlier, Hailey is really, really good about not front-loading all this information. She gives you these little tidbits and then slowly layers that in over the course of the story until you have a complete picture. It's a very puzzle piece narrative.
This is my second Hailey Piper book, and I just like the way she's able to give us, because she's the same thing in The Possession. Natalie
Glasgow?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Where I was thinking Grace for some reason. I don't know why. Where we get more information as the story continues to help us piece things together, which helps create a mystery about the character that keeps the reader reading to want to really dive in and understand this character. So I think she's really good at that.
I have questions.
I might have an answer.
I probably don't at this point. I don't have any answers anymore.
So, and I'm trying to remember, maybe it was already answered in the book, but are we to assume that Donna always thought she was a king for the worm?
I'm thinking no, because Donna was living a pretty comfortable and normal life before all this happened, and I think Donna might have just stumbled into this.
Yeah, because that's what I was trying to, and she might have explained it already in the book, and I just don't remember it, because I was trying to think if that was a long setup of getting Monique, or if it
kind of seems like Monique had been searching for Donna for a while.
Yeah.
This wasn't something, I think what it was is Donna was hearing rumors about this thing, and she went to investigate it, thinking it would help bring fulfillment for them, or for her. And that's when she ended up following the path to become a king.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then when
my people, I have found you.
And when she became a king, she used her power to find Monique, to introduce Monique to the worm, but also to create a world without hate, where people like Monique can live in peace, and people like Monique can be happy, and people like Monique don't have to deal with all the bullshit they have to put up with.
And that tells you a lot about where we're at as a country, doesn't it? That in order to try and get like these basic human rights, we have to call on an ancient deity to come and destroy the world.
Someone into a fucking wormhole.
Yeah. It's the American dream.
So that question leads into, because I was trying to figure out the purpose of the empty place in the Freedom Tunnel, and the fact that Monique was her tent was next to it. Because then she later on, when she's in the cult in the building, she starts noticing it there, and then we kind of realized that I think was tied to, because we kind of get this idea that the wormhole or whatever it is, it kind of made the membrane between, I guess, multiple dimensions thin, and that's why it, like the Gray Maiden and then the other monsters, including the Mimic, were there. So that's what I was trying to like piece together, if Monique was always sort of tied to the worm, and it just, that's why she was next to that, and why she could kind of hear it, and then why Donna picked her. That's why I was trying to like.
I mean, I think Monique was, because the worm lives beyond time.
Yeah.
So because the worm lives beyond time, it's more just like everything that's going to happen has been experienced by the worm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's trying, and the pieces now are just kind of falling into place for what it should be.
Gotcha. Yeah. Which I guess that does make sense for especially the end, because it seems like she becomes the worm.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that would make sense that she would then go back and set these up, because for her, I guess time would be all on the line, or whatever that is, whatever that theory is. I can't think of now.
String theory?
Yes. So, but yeah, I mean, because I love the ending is she basically kind of travels as the worm and sees, she jumps into the past because she finds the Mimic, and she finds the original people, the original kings, which I liked. And so it kind of like, also then I think she looks into the future. I can't remember how that works. It's been a crazy.
I think she sees the future too.
Yeah.
But it's a trippy book.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend it. Even if you stuck through and not reading and you heard the spoilers, like, fucking read it.
Yeah, it's still going to be richly rewarding, even if you know what's going on.
Hailey Piper is an author who deserves to be read.
Yes.
She's has one of the strongest narrative voices I've read in a while. Especially, this is her second novella.
Yeah, she's kind of hit the scene like a bat out of hell. I mean,
right?
Between this, her Rewind or Die story, Penny Rose, the Cannibal King, was fucking phenomenal.
So this is her third novella then, because The Possession, Natalie Glasgow's a novella too.
Yeah, I haven't read The Possession yet, but it's on my Kindle. I got it. I know I'm going to enjoy it.
And she's hit the scene hard.
Yeah, she's got a short story collection coming out.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be out when this comes out, but
she has a novel coming out this year too.
I cannot wait for that. I mean, she has hit the scene hard, and if you keep hearing her name come up, there's a reason.
Yeah.
It is well deserved.
Totally.
She's gaining a lot of attention because she is a damn good author and one hell of a storyteller, and you should most definitely be reading her stuff.
Totally, 100%. I also want to make an announcement that if any of you were hurt or offended by anything we said in the beginning of this episode, we mean every word of it, so you can just go fuck off.
Yeah, if you're a racist, if you're a Trump voter, if you're a white supremacist, if you own a Confederate flag or a Nazi flag, or you worship those ideologies,
or you jerk off to pictures of Adolf Hitler,
yeah, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, no, we don't want you listening to us.
Yeah, you can, I don't know, go fuck yourself with a broken bottle would be a good place to start.
Yeah, I could see that.
That's all I got. Just, fuck off.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
So next week, hopefully we're in better spirits. We're kind of living in hell world right now, so we'll see how it comes.
I'm not going to be resting too easy until like after the inauguration goes off without a hitch, because that, I think just the fact that that's a question mark right now says a lot. Like, man, Jesus Christ.
I will say for 21, I've been talking to a few different people. I have one guest confirmed, and I'm trying to get some more bigger names to come on our humble little podcast.
Yeah, after this episode, they may not want anything to do with us. We don't know.
Maybe. We'll see. But I'm working on getting some more people on our humble little work, and we'll see where things go. The one guest I can announce right now is Mike Thorne's going to be coming on. I haven't read his stuff, but I've heard really good things about him.
I got his latest release from Journal Stone.
Oh, his debut that's coming out?
Yeah.
His debut novel. He has a collection.
It's a great cover.
So this is his debut novel that's out.
Yeah.
Or coming out.
Naturally, I forget the title because some shit's been going on. My head is in a weird space right now. So go to Journal Stone and look him up. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm hoping this year's. We've seen some really great growth over the last year for Staring Into the Abyss, and I can't wait to see it grow and continue. Yes. And everyone who's stuck with us and who's listened to us, we appreciate all of you.
Yes, thank you for your support and your listenage. I don't know.
Patronage.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you for giving us your time
putting up with us.
And putting up with us. And Matt, where can our listeners follow you on Twitter?
I'm at Brandenburg DM. And
Mike?
They can find me on Twitter at MikeH5856. Rich, where can they find you on Parler?
I actually do have a Parler account. I was using it to spy on the alt-right, but Parler's getting shut down now, so that's going to be useless. But if you do want to find my Parler account where I've made 0 posts, it's rgirlac1 on Parler. I have made 0 posts. If anyone can
find it, I don't know, without any apps or web support.
I am being 100%. Like this is even a bit. I did make a Parler account months ago to spy on people. just gonna put that out there, because I want to know what the fuck people are thinking in our country and how fucking crazy you are and what these crazy motherfuckers are planning on doing. And I want to be the one to warn people and help people. So, just putting that out there.
Yeah, apparently David Nunes just went on Fox News to discuss the ban of Parler from app stores and Amazon and said that Republicans now have no way to communicate. So that's a fun bit.
Yeah, so it's going to be a fucking mess. But you can follow me on Twitter where I'm much more uplifting at Rudy53088. And you can also follow our Twitter at Into Staring. And you make sure that you subscribe and leave reviews for all the multiple streaming platforms that our podcast is available on. And remember, keep staring.
Hello, is anybody out there? Anybody? This is Jim Cobb. If you are hearing this, the worst has happened. I've recorded a podcast at the end of the world and will broadcast it on channel PEN every Friday. It's all about the apocalypse, books, movies, TV, how much food and water will you need in your bunker, all that kind of stuff.
Excuse me, sir. You're going to have to keep the noise down. You're in a library and you're scaring the kids. The world hasn't ended yet.
Sorry, ma'am.
Shh. You're in the library at the end of the world with host Jim Cobb.
Fridays, exclusively on Project Entertainment Network.
This has been a presentation of the Project Entertainment Network.